Welcome to Crushed Husband. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin. My boots hit the entry mat like I was dropping cinder blocks. My hands were black with grease and brake dust. My shirt was soaked through, and my lower back felt like it had been through a wood chipper. 18 hours straight on the floor. 18. The union-busting drama was finally over, and we'd won. Barely. I should have felt relief. Instead, I just felt wrecked. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. Lauren didn't even look up from her laptop. She was curled into the corner of the couch like she lived there, legs tucked, blazer still on, two phones buzzing next to her. Her screen reflected in her glasses like a laser beam. "I'm home," I said, voice flat. She hummed, fingers still flying over the keyboard. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I dumped my stuff by the door. Tool bag, thermos, half-crushed peanut butter sandwich I never got around to eating. My shoulders were shot. I was starving, filthy, and running on fumes. Still, I crossed the room and kissed her on the temple. She leaned away. Not rude, not obvious, just enough. "How was it?" I asked, knowing she wouldn't ask me first. "Busy," she muttered. "We just closed on that logistics firm. Midwest expansion, big deal." "Congrats," I said, half-hearted. "We managed to get 6 guys reinstated, wrongful terminations. HR was trying to sneak it past the new contract language." She paused just long enough to let me know she'd heard me, then went right back to typing. "I mean," I added, "that's 6 families that don't lose their homes this winter." "That's good," she said, like I'd told her I finally fixed the sink. I went to the kitchen, reheated some old pasta, and ate standing up. She didn't move, just tapped away like a robot in a glass tower. Me, I felt like a mechanic who wandered into a finance meeting with grime on his face. We used to joke about how different our jobs were, how she dealt in billion-dollar numbers and I dealt in broken machines. Lately, though, it wasn't a joke. It was a canyon. When I sat down across from her, she finally closed the laptop. "I think we need space," she said. I blinked. "What does that mean?" "A month apart, just to see where we're at. Lauren, we're both exhausted. We barely talk. We're just surviving. I need to know if we're still right." I stared at her. She wasn't crying, wasn't mad, just cool, polished, like she was negotiating a merger. I stood up, walked to the bedroom, and started packing a bag. I tossed my bag in the back of the truck and drove straight to the plant. No text from Lauren, no call, not even a "thanks for leaving" without slamming the door. Didn't matter. I needed to get out of my own head, and being surrounded by metal, oil, and noise usually did the trick. That morning, I thought I was finally getting a break. Thought maybe I'd rotate back onto the line or clean up some old maintenance logs. Nope. Rickson flagged me the second I walked in. "You got a minute?" I nodded, followed him into his office, still reeking of stale coffee and sweat. He didn't even sit down, just leaned against the filing cabinet like the floor was lava. "We've got a situation. One of the supply warehouses, we think someone's cooking the books." I blinked. "You want me to audit?" "You and Jay, he's already briefed." I looked toward the shop floor. "Why us?" "Because I trust you," Rickson said, "and because the last guy who looked into it got a promotion to night shift in Alaska." Jay met me at the loading dock, chewing sunflower seeds like he was about to tail a mafia boss. "Collins flagged the issue," he said, grabbing the keys to one of the fleet trucks. "Warehouse down in Dayton. Apparently invoices aren't matching up, and somebody's been signing off on stuff that never showed up." "Like what?" "Hydraulic lifts, cutting tools, couple of those mobile torque arms we don't even use here." We hit the highway, windows down, radio off. Jay finally spoke up after about 20 minutes. "You know who owns that warehouse?" I glanced over. "Our supplier." He shook his head. "Technically, yeah, but they got bought out last year by that logistics firm, the one Lauren's firm just pumped money into." I felt my stomach drop like I missed a step. "You sure?" Jay nodded. "Saw the merger doc when I was doing the maintenance schedule refresh. New logos everywhere. Midwest Hub number 7, same place." I didn't say anything for a full mile. "You think that's a problem?" Jay asked. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Only if it's not a coincidence." The warehouse was tucked behind a shipping yard. Half the loading bays were empty. Trailers parked sideways like someone left in a hurry. Inside, the lights flickered. No buzz of machinery, just quiet. Collins met us by the front office, clipboard in hand, beard untrimmed, sweat soaked through his collar. "You're the guys from HQ." I nodded. "You the one who flagged the invoices." He glanced over his shoulder, like he was waiting to get jumped. "Yeah. Listen, I don't want any trouble. I just started noticing patterns. Tools marked delivered never came. Same vendor names kept popping up. No tracking numbers, nothing showed." Jay flipped open a folder. "Double billing. Looks like it. We're getting charged twice for stuff we don't even get once." I stepped in. "You got the paperwork." Collins motioned us into his cramped office. Filing cabinets were jammed full, papers stacked everywhere, fan buzzing like it was on its last leg. "I pulled what I could," he said, handing over a folder. "But the weird part, all the orders are marked as cleared by the main office, as if someone way above me said it was all legit." I flipped through the sheets, same 3 vendors over and over, generic names, vague PO numbers, a few signatures I didn't recognize. "You ever contact them?" I asked. "They don't answer. Emails bounce, phone numbers ring dead." Jay leaned in. "You ever seen them? In person?" "Nope, never even delivered here." I slid one of the sheets into my back pocket. "We're gonna need to see more, all of it, digital copies too." Collins hesitated. "You guys official." Jay laughed. "We're not the cops. We're worse. We're union." That got a smile, but only for a second. Back in the truck, I tossed the folder on the dash. The whole thing stunk. Jay glanced at me sideways. "Still think it's a coincidence?" I didn't answer. I already knew the answer. Collins locked the office door behind us. That was the first red flag. Second was how his hands kept twitching like he couldn't figure out where to put them. Clipboard, pockets, back to clipboard. "You sure no one followed you?" he asked. Jay raised an eyebrow. "Who'd be following us? We're from the plant, not the IRS." Collins didn't laugh, just leaned over the desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a flash drive sealed in a sandwich bag. "I didn't want this on our servers," he said. Pulled it from a backup I made at home. I took it and turned it in my hand. "What is it?" Every transaction I could find tied to the 3 vendors that flagged weird. I backtracked 6 months. It's all inflated orders, stuff we didn't need, never got, or couldn't even store here. He was sweating now, even with the AC humming behind him. "And they all got greenlit?" I asked. "Not just greenlit, fast-tracked. Someone skipping protocols." Jay cut in. "So, who are these vendors?" "That's the thing," Collins said. "They're shells." I checked the business license numbers. 2 were registered in Delaware, 1 in Nevada. All 3 trace back to the same holding company. Some parent group tied to Midwest logistics infrastructure. My throat went dry. Lauren's deal. The one she was bragging about 2 nights ago. "You dig into that company?" I asked. Collins nodded. "That's how I found the connection. They share a mailing address with the main logistics firm Lauren's people bought into. Same office suite. Same fax line." I didn't say anything, just stared at the flash drive. "You want it?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, slipping it into my front pocket. "We'll take it from here." Back at the plant, Jay and I holed up in the tool crib office. No windows, spotty Wi-Fi. Perfect. We plugged the drive in and started combing through the spreadsheets. Row after row of equipment orders with jacked up prices. Items listed 3 times under different invoice numbers. All routed through different shell vendors, but ending up in the same payment processor. Same memo line, Project Delta, CapEx expansion. Jay tapped the screen. "CapEx, my ass. These ain't even capital expenses. That's pure laundering." He pulled up a few older transactions, dates going back almost a year. "I think we found the start point," he said. "And guess what? Somebody signed off on all of this like clockwork." He pointed to a digital approval code, one that matched internal memos we'd seen on past projects. But this one had an attached name, Dean Holloway. I sat back in the chair. "Say that again." "Holloway Dean, board member. Looks like he's one of the primary approvers on half these transactions." I clenched my jaw. Lauren had mentioned him before, called him a force of nature at some firm party I skipped. I remember the way she said it, like she was impressed, or worse, loyal. Jay pulled up a quick bio. CEO of a strategic consulting firm, also sits on the board of the logistics group, friend of politicians, donor, whole deal. "And he's signing fake invoices," I said. "Looks like it." We kept digging. Jay's fingers flew across the keyboard while I cross-checked totals. Over $9 million in procurement scams, all buried under supply chain expenses. I pushed the chair back and stood up. My back cracked from sitting so long. "All right," I said. "We need to talk to Rickson. But not until we're sure we've got enough." Jay nodded. "You think Lauren knows?" I didn't answer right away. My pulse was already pounding. "I think she knows exactly who signs her checks." Jay stared at me. "What are you going to do if this goes public?" I walked over to the door, flicked off the lights, and waited for my eyes to adjust. I didn't want to answer that yet, because the truth. I already knew I wouldn't back off. I got home around 7. Lauren had already set the table. Grilled chicken, salad, a bottle of wine she only opened when she wanted to control the mood. Her laptop sat closed beside her plate. That was rare. She was in one of her sleek blouses, hair tied up like she just walked out of a press release. "You're home late," she said, pouring herself a glass. "Yeah, got pulled into something new at work." She waited, probably expecting me to say more. I didn't. We started eating, forks clicking against ceramic, no music, just the low hum of the fridge filling the silence. After a couple bites, I asked, real casual, "That logistics deal your firm pushed through, what's the angle there?" She didn't look up. "Rust Belt growth, infrastructure pivot, warehousing, shipping, final mile stuff. It's solid." I took a sip of water. "Sounds like a lot of money's moving through those warehouses." She paused just long enough for me to notice, then said, "That's how expansion works. You ever hear of a guy named Dean Holloway?" Her fork stopped halfway to her mouth, just for a second, then she put it down gently. "He's a visionary," she said, her tone clipped. "Visionary, huh?" She narrowed her eyes. "Why are you asking?" I leaned back in my chair. "Been noticing some weird procurement records lately. Stuff that doesn't add up, vendors that don't exist, overpriced equipment that never shows." Her face didn't move, but her posture changed, more rigid. And some of those fake vendors are tied to the logistics firm your team backed, the one Holloway's on the board of. She set her napkin down. "So, you're digging into my work now. I'm doing my job. This came across my desk. You're union, not FBI. And I know when someone's laundering money through shell companies." Lauren stood up, walked to the sink, back turned. "You're jealous," she said. I laughed once. "Of what? My success, my world, the fact that I'm actually building something while you're elbow deep in axle grease every day." I stood too. "Building something. Lauren, you're standing on a pile of fake invoices and kickbacks. That's not building. It's hiding." She turned, eyes sharp. "You think you know how this works? You don't. You're just scratching at the surface of something way bigger than you. I'm not the one hiding behind fake vendors and bullshit CapEx memos. You don't know what you're talking about. I know we found $9 million in fraud tied to that operation." That hit her, not because of the number, because it meant we were serious, real. She crossed her arms. "Are you planning to report it?" "Already started. Me and Jay are bringing it to corporate compliance. They'll escalate." Her jaw clenched. "You need to stop." I stepped closer. "Why?" "Because if you don't, we're done." The words hung there. "I mean it," she added. "Drop it. Walk away, or we don't come back from this." I stared at her. Everything in me wanted to yell, to grab something and throw it across the room, to force her to admit she already knew everything. But I didn't. I just asked one thing. "You knew, didn't you?" She didn't answer, didn't deny it. Just walked past me, picked up her wine glass, and sat back down, like the conversation never happened. I walked to the door. She didn't follow. I didn't sleep that night. Lauren stayed in the bedroom. I crashed on the couch with a beer that went warm before I touched it. My phone buzzed just after 4 a.m. Blocked number, one text. "You don't know me. My name's Marvin. I work at the Dayton warehouse. I have information. I need to talk. Discreet." I stared at it for a few seconds, thumb hovering over reply. Then I typed, "Where?" 15 minutes later, I was driving south on I-71, barely awake, jaw tight. Marvin picked a greasy old diner wedged between a tire shop and a closed-down bait store. I parked in the corner of the lot, backed in. He was already there. Early 20s, scruffy, pale, looked like he hadn't had a day off in 6 months. When I walked in, he flinched like I might be someone else. "Marvin?" I asked. He nodded, stood up halfway, then sat again. We took a booth in the back. Waitress didn't even come over. He slid a manila envelope across the table before I could sit. "I don't want money," he said. "I'm not looking for trouble. But I can't sit on this." I opened the envelope. Inside were screenshots, login records, a couple printed spreadsheets. He was shaking. "Talk. I handle the back-end inventory flow," he said, barely louder than a whisper. "I run the system that updates regional stock reports for the Midwest hubs. That includes your plant." I nodded. "Go on." "About 6 months ago, I got new instructions from upper management. Told me to redirect certain records through a VPN. Basically push fake equipment counts into the system so invoices matched up with delivery receipts. Even though the equipment never showed," he nodded, "or didn't even exist. Some of the item codes were made up. Didn't realize what was going on at first." "What changed?" "Couple months in, I started noticing all the fake entries were tied to the same 3 vendors. So I poked around. Then I saw the approval chain." He reached into his hoodie and pulled out his phone, scrolled for a second, then slid it to me. "Watch that." It was a screen recording, his laptop screen during a Zoom call. The video window layout showed 5 people, 3 I didn't know. One was Holloway, the 5th, Lauren. My chest went cold. They were talking fast, using terms like spreading losses and supplier rotation strategy. Holloway said, "We'll funnel the margin over 6 vendors, keep the noise down." Lauren replied, "Make sure the burn rate doesn't raise flags. I'll adjust the capital injection schedule." I froze. I hadn't been sure before, but there it was, clear as day. She knew. She was part of it. "Where'd you get this?" I asked, trying not to let my voice shake. "Internal server." I was updating the call logs, and this one was saved under the wrong label. I copied it before it got pulled. I leaned back in the booth, ran a hand down my face. "Why now?" "Because I saw your name on a forwarded compliance notice. I figured you were the one asking questions." "You have access logs." He pulled a flash drive from his coat pocket and dropped it on the table like it was a live grenade. "That's everything. User IDs, timestamps, routing paths. Holloway signed off on every single transaction. But none of it moves without the funding Lauren's firm gave them." "Think she knew where it was going?" He gave me a look. "She didn't just know. She helped coordinate it. Hell, she said in that call, no one's getting hurt, and we're helping revitalize a dying corridor. Not like she thought it was noble or something." I stared at the flash drive, then back at him. "You willing to talk to someone official?" He shook his head immediately. "Not unless I get protection. I don't want to disappear. I'm not that brave." "You're brave enough," I said. "Just promise me you'll do something with it," he muttered. "This thing's dirty. Real dirty." I reached across the table, slid the drive into my pocket. "You did the right thing." He stood up and left without finishing his coffee. Didn't look back. I sat there for a minute, staring at the empty seat. Then I stood, paid the check, and walked out into the cold Ohio morning. I was back at the plant by 8. Dropped the flash drive in a locked drawer, checked in with Jay, then got called upstairs. Rickson was waiting in the break room, arms crossed, face tight. "Corporate just got off the phone," he said. "You need to shut it down." I didn't move. "What do you mean, shut it down?" "They want you and Jay off the procurement case. No more digging, no more emails, no more driving down to Dayton like a couple of rogue detectives." I stared at him. "Why?" "Too much heat. Holloway's name came up on a compliance draft report. His people caught wind of it. Lawyers are already circling." I pulled Marvin's envelope out of my bag and slapped it on the table. "Heat or not, this is real. Access logs, transactions, meeting screenshots. It's all here." Rickson didn't touch it. "I believe you." "Doesn't matter. Holloway's got juice, real political connections. If we push too hard, this thing blows sideways, and people here start losing jobs, not just the guilty ones. That's the point, isn't it? Clean house." He leaned in. "Look, I'm with you. But they're not asking. They're telling." I stood there, fists clenched. Every part of me wanted to yell, flip the table, throw the files in his face. Instead, I walked out. Jay caught up with me in the hallway. "What did they say?" "They want it buried." He nodded like he'd been expecting that. So we don't stop." We went back to our shop, started making copies. digital backups, cloud storage, burner USBs. If they were going to shut us down, they'd have to chase the evidence into the ground. That night, I was sorting paperwork at the kitchen table when I heard a knock. I opened the door to find Lauren standing there, no suitcase this time, just that same look she used when her deals didn't go her way. She walked in without asking. "You're going to ruin everything," she said, voice sharp. "Nice to see you too." She dropped her purse on the counter. "Do you even understand what you're doing?" "Yeah, exposing a criminal conspiracy, one your firm helped bankroll." Her eyes narrowed. "Holloway built that network from scratch. He's not dirty, he's strategic." "Strategic," I barked. "He fabricated vendors and funneled millions. That's not business, Lauren. That's fraud." She stepped closer. "You don't get it. This isn't about some forklift invoice. This is about economic development, real jobs, real industry. We use capital to stimulate." I cut her off. "Did you know?" She froze. "Did you know," I repeated, "that equipment was never delivered, that your Zoom buddy was signing off on ghost shipments?" She didn't look away. I knew we were being creative. I laughed bitter. Creative. No one got hurt. I slammed my hand on the table hard enough to rattle the plates. "That's your line. No one got hurt." She flinched but didn't back down. "I didn't start this to destroy you," I said, "but I'm not covering for it." She stared at me like I was a stranger. Then she grabbed her bag, headed for the door. "I hope this crusade of yours is worth it," she said, "because I'm done fighting you." She walked out. I didn't stop her. The next morning, I got the email around 6:12 a.m. Subject line: "You don't know me, but I know what you're chasing." Body. "I used to work IT at the logistics firm. I have something. Tonight, level 2, garage under the Broadview office park. Come alone. 8:15. No signature, no attachments, just a time and place." I didn't reply. That night, I parked my truck on the second level, like he said. It was empty except for a few sedans and a dented Corolla with no plates. The air smelled like warm asphalt and mildew. He stepped out from behind a pillar as soon as I cut the engine. Mid-30s, hoodie, jeans, unshaven. Walked fast, eyes never meeting mine. "You the guy?" I asked, standing by the tailgate. He nodded once. No name, no handshake. He pulled a USB stick from his pocket and dropped it in my hand like it burned. "That's everything," he said. I scrubbed the metadata and bounced the route. No one can trace it to me. "What's on it?" "Email threads, memos, budget approvals, the real planning documents. You want your smoking gun? That's it. Lauren, front and center," he said. "Multiple threads. You'll see her recommending how to spin procurement overruns, how to pitch it as supply chain resilience. Even helped draft the talking points when the kickback rumors started circulating last spring." I stared at the drive. It felt heavier than it should have. "Why now?" He looked over his shoulder. "Because they're panicking. People are deleting stuff, scrambling. You need to move." "You testify." He shook his head. "I disappear. That's the deal." And just like that, he turned and walked out the other side of the garage, never looking back. I waited a full minute, heart pounding, before I slid the drive into my coat pocket and got the hell out of there. Back at the plant, I locked my office door and fired up an air-gapped laptop Jay had rigged for this kind of thing. No Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, no chance of outside eyes. I opened the folder. There were dozens of documents, chain of command memos detailing which regional hubs to exploit, how to overbill, how to segment the charges so no single department noticed. Lauren's name showed up again and again. Repackage the vendor narrative as regional growth. Use ESG angles to justify temporary losses. Control backlash with worker-focused PR. Keep unions quiet. She hadn't just helped. It was like she'd ghost-written the whole damn thing. I scrolled through the approvals. Holloway's name was everywhere. So were 2 other board members, plus legal, plus finance. Lauren's initials were tagged on revision requests, budget sign-offs, and one file labeled Q3 talking points, strategy rollout, LP edits. I leaned back in the chair and let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. That was it. I took the drive, walked it straight to internal investigations. No middlemen, no delay. The guy behind the desk didn't even ask questions. He just opened a locked drawer and slid the folder inside like he'd been waiting for it. 3 days later, corporate announced a full audit. 5 days after that, the feds showed up. black Suburbans, suits, boxes coming out of offices. They weren't playing anymore. It was almost midnight when she knocked. No blazer, no heels, no perfume, just a hoodie and jeans and a duffel bag slung over her shoulder. Her face looked pale under the porch light, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't seem sure of anything. I opened the door without saying a word. She stepped in, slow, like the floor might collapse under her. No laptop, no phone in her hand, just her eyes, red, tired, empty. "The firm's on fire," she said. "Everyone's turning on each other. Holloway's gone. They think he's in Panama." I didn't move, just leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. She looked around the apartment like it was her first time seeing it. Same couch, same stack of laundry in the corner, same cracked mug she used every morning before she got too busy for coffee. "You handed it over," she said. "I did." She nodded once. "Thought so." There was no anger in her voice, no fake calm or corporate polish, just the sound of someone who'd finally run out of spin. "I thought I could manage it," she said, walking slowly toward the kitchen. "Keep it under control. Keep it smart." "You thought 9 million in fake invoices could be smart." "No," she said, looking down. "I thought if we built something good out of it, it would justify the mess. Like, if the outcome was big enough, maybe the dirt didn't matter." I shook my head. "If that were true, you wouldn't be here with a suitcase." She looked up, eyes glassy. "I'm not staying. I didn't want to disappear without saying something." "You already disappeared," I said. She let that hang, no defense, no explanation. "You were right," she said, "about all of it. The fake vendors, the money, the Zoom calls. I wasn't some pawn. I was in it. I helped keep it alive." I didn't answer, just walked to the coffee table and moved some papers aside so she'd stop pacing like a ghost. "I'm leaving," she finally said. "Tonight." "Where?" "Somewhere no one finds me for a while." She reached into her bag, pulled out a black company key card, and set it gently on the table. Next to it, she placed a small leather watch, brown strap, silver dial, the one I gave her when I proposed. I stared at it for a second. The strap had a nick in it from when she dropped it on the subway platform last winter. I remember grabbing it before it slipped through the grate. She backed toward the door. "I didn't come here to be forgiven," she said. "I came to let you know I was never trying to hurt you. I just got lost in the idea of winning." "That's what scares me," I said. She swallowed hard, nodded, and turned the knob. At the door, she stopped, looked back once, like she wanted to say something else, but she didn't. She just walked out. She didn't come back after that night. Not the next day, not the next week. And not when the news broke 2 weeks later. Holloway arrested outside Tucson, trying to cross into Mexico with a fake passport and $15,000 in cash stuffed into a gym bag. They dragged him out of a motel in handcuffs. It was all over the feeds, grainy footage, headlines screaming, "Boardroom tycoon falls from grace." Lauren's name popped up fast, not as a suspect, yet, but buried deep in the fine print of every article. Named in depositions, subject of internal review, not reachable for comment. She was gone. The firm went into lockdown. Half their leadership either resigned or got fired. Lawsuits hit like hail. Class actions, whistleblower claims, DOJ, breathing down their necks. The logistics company, torched, dropped from every major contract they'd won in the last 2 years. Shares in freefall, phones ringing off the hook at every plant that ever worked with them. Our own company stayed mostly clean, but nobody wanted to talk. Everything was tight-lipped now. Legal reviews, audits, cold stares from execs who used to slap backs and tell dirty jokes in the break room. Jay, though, he got promoted, officially now part of our compliance team. They moved him to an office with a door and gave him a badge that actually beeped when he scanned in. "Not bad for a guy who used to fix toilets," he told me one morning, smirking over his coffee. I just nodded. "You earned it." I kept working, same boots, same shift, different weight on my shoulders, lighter in some ways, heavier in others. One Thursday, there was a postcard waiting in my locker. No return address, just a photo. Cliffside Village, white houses, deep blue water. Portugal. Back was blank, except for one thing. L. No message, no apology, just that letter. Like she needed me to know she was still breathing, still somewhere. I pinned it up beside my schedule, right next to the photo of me and Jay covered in axle grease from last year's plant barbecue. Sometimes I'd catch myself staring at it while changing into my coveralls. She really believed she could fix the world by breaking it first. And for a minute there, I almost believed her too.